Well on guys, back with you again. It's another video on the same day. This one probably be a bit shorter. This one is discussing urodynamics. So basically after I had my flexible cystoscopy, which is in one of the previous videos, my registrar was doing a cystoscopy, so I want to put you in for urodynamics. Basically this is where they you go into the urology department again and you provide a urine sample again, providing you haven't got an infection. This time you will be asked to take all your clothes off and put a gown on, because depending on why you're having urodynamics done, it could be because of incontinence, could be because of leakage. This would probably be quite common in women, but obviously they suspect you may have overactive bladder syndrome, or they want to know what your filling capacity is. In my case, my capacity was low. So anyway, you get changed in the gown and go into another room. My experience was a little bit different. I was expecting a urologist and a nurse. Well, I ended up with a senior urologist, two junior doctors, the nurse who was helping with the urodynamics, and the nurse I had sat in with me, my cystoscopy. He was doing a urodynamic training, so you have 5 people in a room where you would only have 2 people, and this might be a bit off-putting to some people. Again, I'm quite modest, so and junior doctors have to learn somewhere. People have to redo their training. I could have refused, but in this case, I've got to get on with it, really. So anyway, they explain the procedure to you. If you're there is a procedure, there is a piece of equipment called a Euro cuff. Doesn't appear to have filtered its way down to Cornwall yet. This is used primarily for urodynamic testing on men. They put a cuff a bit like a very small blood pressure cuff around your shaft with sensors on your abdomen and your perineum, to monitor rectal and bladder pressure whilst you're peeing, and the cuff tightens and closes. They said this equipment doesn't appear to have filtered down to Cornwall yet. That this equipment is available at other urology departments in the UK. Down in Cornwall, they're still using a bit old school techniques, which is done. They're done with fine catheters. When I say fine, they're probably about a 6 French gauge catheter. So we're talking 1 mil cable. If you're an auto electrician, they're not very big. So they obviously again pull back my gown because I got bifid urethra. The junior doctors were showing the bifid urethra. You've lost all your modesty at this point, basically. It's a bit like a woman being in being in labour with a baby, I suppose. Anyway, they put some lidocaine gel up there. They explain what they do in lidocaine gel. They then push this very fine catheter up into your bladder. Again, it stung a little bit going up through the sphincter. They push quite a lot of the catheter up there, basically, because it's a pressure sensor as well as a feed. If you're a woman, they will put the secondary catheter up into your vagina, bit like how they would do a gynecological inspection, I would imagine. For a bloke, obviously, they'll do a prostate exam and put the catheter up your bum same time. Again, it's not particularly uncomfortable. It's very fine, and to be honest, you don't even really know it's there. They take all the catheters to you, so you can't pull out. And then they put the gown back again, at which point I don't really know why they bothered, to be honest with you, because you had 5 of them, looking at you from the waist down. But I suppose, like everything, they do the best to protect your modesty as best you can, sort of thing. I said, and it doesn't really bother me. Some blokes, might be quite put off by this, but they do cover you back up again. So they initially run a bit of water through the catheters to check they're clear. This feels very strange in your rectal one. Again, in the vaginal one, again, probably similar sort of thing, because it feels like you've got warm water running through. It's a very strange sensation. When the test begins, they then these 2 catheters, the catheter in your bladder is basically monitoring bladder pressure on filling, and they'll fill it very gently. I didn't really notice probably I had anything in my bladder till it got to about 150 mils, which was what I would call a comfortable capacity. I would have stopped there, and they said, "Can you go a bit more?" I said, "Oh, okay, I'll go a little bit more." And they got to about 200 mils, and I said, "You're going to have to stop there. It is really, really uncomfortable." And also know full well if I'm breaking my neck for a pee, it's hard to pee. I wasn't on the Tamsulosin again at this point. And obviously, you imagine you've got to pee past this catheter as well, and you've got the lidocaine gel. So peeing is not going to be easy anyway. So when they're no, obviously, if you've got a bigger capacity, you'll take a lot more fluid. Could be 400 mils, 500 mils, depending on how big your capacity is. Obviously you are sat on a pad as well. So ladies or gents, if you suffer with leakage or incontinence sort of thing, this is only saline solution. You've already been for a pee and they've checked your residue. I think mine was 50 mils before coming in. So there's not really going to be any urine in there sort of thing. If you do leak water, it's going to be saline solution. And this is the whole idea, especially if you suffer from stress incontinence or pressure incontinence, females, you're sat on a pad. So basically sort of thing now is you don't need to be embarrassed. This is the whole idea of this test, is to see what the body's doing, and how the bladder is performing at set pressures and volumes. So anyway, you then asked to stand behind a curtain and pee into a funnel with a jug underneath it. I don't think some might use a proper flow tester. I don't think this one was. I think he was basically a funnel over a jug sort of thing, and so you got 5 of them standing behind the curtain there waiting for you to pee. And it was a struggle, and they said, do you want us to leave the room, Mr. Bew? And they're running taps, and I did manage to pee in the end. And towards the end of the test, I was using that much pressure. I actually pushed the catheter straight out, which was a little bit of an unfair test towards the end. But obviously, because at this point they're trying to measure bladder pressure internally for avoiding, and rectal pressure. So once you finish voiding and you're happy, they take the catheters out again. Obviously, one had already come out anyway, and you go off to get changed and come back, and they go through your results with you. My test was a flat line on filling, which would indicate no sign of overactive bladder. If you've got overactive bladder, it would spike, showing bladder spasms. Because what I forgot to mention is if you're on any anti-spasm tablets, they do ask you to stop taking them a week before the procedure, so it's a fair test of how bad things can be. Obviously they measure rectal pressure as well. My rectal pressure was extremely high, which I'm not surprised, because to go for a pee I have to exert a lot of rectal pressure, squeeze my ass cheek together, however you call it. I have to be careful I haven't got bad guts, because you can shit yourself if you are really straining to go for a pee. Being on the Tamsulosin now sort of thing, going for a pee is easier. I don't have to strain so hard. Trying to squeeze the last few drops out, you are sort of like almost trying to wring a towel out. It is very much like that. So they went through my results for me with high rectal pressure, low bladder pressure on voiding, flat line on filling, only the 200 mils, which had come down probably about 80 or 90 mils from when I had my flow test. Went through the family history. I have got family history of MS, and it was everything they expected to see with somebody with MS, basically. Not so much overactive. It wasn't definitely nothing there showing overactive bladder syndrome. Although the tablets of mine is to treat me for overactive bladder, because obviously at times it spasms, and technically that's what it's doing. There wasn't a diagnosis of overactive bladder syndrome. And that was that for the urodynamics, really, sort of thing. That's as complicated as it gets. This is an unusual situation to have so many staff in there. Normally you would only have a urologist and a nurse. No, it's unusual to have a urologist, 2 junior doctors and 2 nurses. I probably could have asked for less staff if I'd really been bothered, but people got to learn, and you just got to get on with it, really. yes, all these results went back to Mr. Hodgson, Mr. Mosin, who was doing their urodynamics at the time. Again, it asked if I wanted to go on to tamsulosin, and I said, well, I don't really find a lot of benefit from it. I don't particularly like the dry ejaculation side effects of tamsulosin. Again, it's nothing more than just my own personal preference, really. It's not like we're trying to conceive. They will ask you that if you are trying to conceive, because tamsulosin is no good if you are trying to conceive. They upped my mirabegron from 25 mils to 50 mils, which is the highest dose you can be on for the mirabegron. And that did settle things down again up to the winter, and I wore thermal leggings through the winter to cope with the chill. And everything sort of went quiet again, really. We had the hot summer this year, which is ideal because you're sweating. You can drink really more or less what you want fluid-wise, well, as much as you want. I would still got to keep the decaf tea and squash with a very limited amount of alcohol. And I had a bad attack late part of August, one evening. This has been on the mirabegron and the spasmin. And it sort of didn't settle itself for a couple of weeks. It was all a bit unsettled, and it did settle down again. So I made another appointment going to see Mr. Hodgson. I was supposed to have had a 6-monthly review with the NHS team in March or April. This was now September, so it was pushing the 12-monthly point. I thought, well, I'm not careful, it's going to turn in 18 months and so on and so forth, because they don't consider me to be priority, really. So I went back and saw Mr. Hodgson, and tail of woe, and my flow is still bad, and my capacity is worse, and my quality of life is suffering. And we sort of talked about a few options, and he said, I'm going to put you on solifenacin succinate, which has helped. I'm feeling much more settled during the day now. Obviously, this is pre-rigid cystoscopy. I'm going through the night without needing a pee now. I used to have to get up during the night for a pee, which I think is probably common for a lot of people. But generally going on, unless you're drinking Guinness before you go to bed, you should be able to go more or less through the night without a pee, certainly for a good 5 or 6 hours. Anyway, so that's helping. And he recommended that we went for a rigid cystoscopy with hydrogen distension and possible biopsies. And they're going to send me for catheter training, which I'm going to go on the 17th to learn to do intermittent self-catheterization and to use Foley's, which would give me options for long days out and journeys, which I can't do at the moment. I missed out on the cousin's wedding up, sorry, because I wouldn't dare make the journey. Royal Cornwall this year would have been okay because it was hot. If we'd had a cold Royal Cornwall again, I didn't go to Royal Cornwall this year, but if it had been hot, if it hadn't been anything other than hot, I couldn't have gone anyway. Because again, you're looking about an hour and a quarter's drive from where we live in Cornwall to the Royal Cornwall Weybridge Showground. So the catheter training is it will help with the quality of life to a point. And there might be a possibility of Botox, but Mr. Hodgson wanted to try the rigid cystoscopy with hydrodistension first, which I'll discuss with you in the next video. Many of these videos, if you've got any questions, stick them in the comments box. And I'm going to answer them as best I can. Like I said, at the end of the day, this is only from my own personal experience. Again, if you get referred for any of these tests, please don't be put off or alarmed. They are there to help them understand what your problems are. There's too many people who suffer in silence because they're afraid to go to the doctor, or they're afraid of the test, or afraid of what they might find. I've been one of the unlucky few, because really, to all intents and purposes, they know there's a problem. There's evidence to support there's a problem, but they can't find what the problem is. This is one of the most frustrating things I think I ever found of being an engineer. You know there's a problem there, and without placing, at least in mechanics, you can think, I can swap out different parts. You can't do that in the human body. Unfortunately, they have to keep persevering until they find a problem. At least know what's causing the problem, if they can treat the problem. So I shall see you in the next video, guys. Cheers and bye.